take this time to silence your cell phones, please welcome the speaker, Max Howell.
Hi everyone, I'm Max Howell, and I'm in the way project. And about 8 years ago, I made a piece of open source software. The software is called Homebrew. But what is Homebrew? Well, Homebrew is a package manager, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what on earth is a package manager? Or you're thinking, oh my god, I thought this presentation was about beer, what am I doing here? Or maybe some of you know what a package manager is. Anyone here? A few. Anyone know of Homebrew? More people know of Homebrew than know what package manager is. Doesn't sound right. Well, for those who don't know what a package manager is, it is a tool that installs other tools. So how's that? Does that sound good? Maybe not? Okay. How about this? It's the App Store, but for developers. Developers need, like software engineers, right? Developers need libraries, compilers, frameworks, build systems, other tools, even other package managers. And what we use to install those things is a package manager. It installs the tools, it keeps them up to date, and it installs their dependencies too. So, Homebrew is a package manager. It's a package manager for Mac. It has tens of millions of users. Oh great, a Mac. Was for a time the biggest project in all of GitHub. And GitHub is this website where we put our open source software on the internet. And for a time, it was the project on GitHub with the most unique contributors of all projects in the world. And the dramatic tension ruined, it might still be. So considering that this is an enormous project which is still actively contributed to weekly, how many hours a week do you think I spend on this project? For our guess. Tim, why are you here? 0. So how come? Well, I originally designed Homebrew to be this decentralized system that could maintain itself, and eventually that is what it became. So let's talk about why we need package managers. Developers are software engineers, and engineers take components and build them into products. So let's imagine we're a housing engineer. Housing engineers need wood, and they also need just slightly too far away. Lego, right? I don't know. What do you build houses with? Does anyone know? So if we were building a soft house, like some software, we would go and ask our package manager to install some wood and install some Lego. And then we'd write some code, and together we would build our soft house. So why do we need package managers? Well, developers are very control-oriented people. It's not enough that they get their Lego. They want to know exactly what's in that Lego and control it. So, the dependency of Lego is plastic. And the developer would probably pick plastic version 2.14, release candidate 7, alpha 8, or something like that, because developers also love bad names. And so that's not enough though, because plastic has a dependency too. Plastic's dependency is oil. And that's not enough. Developers want to control things all the way down, so what's the dependency of oil? Dinosaurs. So indeed, I think this is why software engineers don't build their own houses, because they would be upset that they can control the kind of dinosaurs in their Lego. So, why do we need package managers? This is a dependency graph for another package manager called NPM, which is the package manager for Node. And in fact, this is only a very small portion of the dependency graph. The dependency graph, if it was full, would probably spread around the walls. And, well, just look at it. Can you imagine installing one of these things and then having to go and find all of its dependencies, all the different websites for those dependencies, and then installing those by yourself as well. And then every dependency has a dependency, just like Lego depends ultimately on dinosaurs. And it would just be too much work. It would be way too much work. So why do we need package managers? Well, software engineering is a different kind of engineering. If you're a mechanical engineer and you want to make something, then you have to pay for very expensive tooling up front. But if you're a software engineer, you just use your package manager to install these free tools. And then if you want to build something or experiment with something, you have to pay for materials. They're not free, but software engineers, again, everything we use is free. So the only cost for a software engineer is time. So Lego comes out, and everyone agrees it's the most beautiful composable thing for building software in the world. This is soft Lego. Then a bunch of other developers think, well, Lego's all right, but some element of Lego sucks. So I'm going to release Lego. So that's how the node diagram got so big. So here's another example. Sometimes the production of Lego is a bit more honorable. This is a comic. Situation, there are 14 competing standards. 14? Ridiculous. We need to develop one universal standard that covers everyone's use cases. Yeah! Soon, situation, there are 15 competing standards. Why do we need package managers? Well, software engineering only requires time. And software engineers have a lot of time. I'll let you figure that out. So Lego 1.0 comes out. 2 weeks later, Lego 1.1 comes out. Now with purple bricks. And you're just trying to build your app. You don't need purple bricks. In fact, you don't even really use Lego. One of your dependencies uses Lego. But still, you need to update to Lego 1.1 because that dependency was like, I want purple bricks. So, use a tool to do that, because if you imagine the graph we had previously, updating everything in that graph by hand is ridiculous. Anyway, how did Homebrew come to be? You may think that I have a computer science degree, because I'm a software developer, but in fact, I have a chemistry degree. I thought chemistry was fun. Back in Britain, which is where I'm from if you haven't noticed, I did a chemistry degree, and in the third year I was offered the chance to go and work in the industry. So I went up to Kodak in Harrow, which I hope no one lives in Harrow here, but it's the ugliest place in the world. And I started working in a lab. And for 3 months I was actually pretty into it. It was fun. But after 3 months, it started to occur to me that the simple measurements I was making every day was all I would do for the next 20 years of my life, if that was my career. Turns out that chemistry is super boring. So, not knowing what to do with myself, I went home and turned on my computer. I deleted Windows and I installed Linux. Linux is this free operating system. Linux was made... Oh, please don't. Yeah, okay, I'll just stand here, it's about the right range. Linux was created by this guy, Linus Torvalds. He's from somewhere in Scandinavia, I forget exactly. And about 30 years ago, he wrote an email to a list saying that he was working on this project called Linux. It was just a hobby, and it was never going to be big or proper. But nowadays, Linux is used by 2/3 of the web. It powers and runs almost everything in the cloud. It also powers every Android smartphone. This is an enormous project. Also, and perhaps unwisely, it's been put in all sorts of other things, like, for example, fridges. I think Samsung regrets putting a web browser based on Linux on their fridge. Linux is open source. Open source software is software that is freely available. It's put on the internet. All the source code, the stuff that makes it work, is available for anyone in the world to look at and contribute to. And contributing is key. That's what we want when we put stuff on the internet and make it open source. We want to encourage active contribution from people all over the world. Linux is software, so naturally there are hundreds of varieties of Linux. Here's 5. I like these 5, but while I was bored and not knowing what to do with my life, I explored dozens of different Linux distributions. And every Linux distribution has its own package manager, and each of those package managers sucks in different ways. Having used a few different Linuxes, I also realized that, in general, desktop Linux sucks in different ways. I think it's telling that the desktop Linux community have been saying next year is the year of desktop Linux for almost 20 years. I'm an engineer, so faced with something that sucks, I felt an obligation to try and fix it. So I decided I would teach myself to make apps and contribute to Linux. In the process of installing all these different Linuxes, I installed tons of different software, and this software took up more and more disk space. And this was back in like 2000-ish, and disk space was like 3 gigabytes at the most. So I needed a tool that would help me identify where all my disk space was being used. So I created this. This is my first app. It took me 9 months to make. It was evenings, weekends, and long lunch breaks, which my manager did not like. When I finally got these nested pie charts to work, it was one of the most glorious days of my life, because this was pretty hard for me back then, and well, it's kind of hard now, to be honest. And it hooked me on making apps and doing open source. So, I got back to uni after my year in industry, and I stopped going to class, pretty much. My enthusiasm for chemistry had dried up, and I just hacked around on Linux all day. I finished the app I just showed you, so I was looking around for something new, and all the music players on Linux, you can guess, they sucked. So this new one came out, which had a user experience focus, and nothing on Linux has a user experience focus. So I was really interested, so I joined the team. It was a music player called Amarok, and in the year that I did not do my chemistry degree, we made it an extremely popular music player. It was tons of fun to work on. It had a community of developers all over the world. I often wouldn't sleep, and well, in the end of the year I passed my degree just, but I didn't know what to do with myself after that. I went back to my parents' house where they asked me what I planned to do with myself. And I waited, and it turns out that doing open source can get you work, because I was contacted by a company in London called Last FM. They're a music company. They really liked Amarok. They wanted to give me a job, so I got a job. No computer science degree required. Fast forward a few years. How did Homebrew come to be? That's what this talks about. So at Last FM, we had 6 apps. One for Windows, one for Mac, one for Linux, one for iPhone, one for Android, and one for BlackBerry. Did you know BlackBerry has an app store? Well, they did for like 3 days. So we had all these different apps, all these different platforms, all these different package managers, all these different build systems. Maintaining it sucked. We had a team of 4, and we'd spend like half of some days just fixing our build systems, fixing our package management solutions. It was work that we didn't want to do. We wanted to be making our apps, and our managers really wanted us to be making our apps. But instead we were working on all this stuff that we didn't want to work on. So we complained about it at the pub. This is London. Going to the pub after work is not optional. I kept saying, we should just make our own package management solution. And everyone was like, well, Max, why on earth would you make your own? Because it turns out there are an awful lot of package managers. In fact, on Mac alone, there are 3. And this was the one that everybody really used, Mac Horse. So they were like, my friends were like, why would you write another one? Like, isn't Mac Horse good enough? And I was like, well guys, Mac Horse is making us feel like this. Has anyone ever done that, by the way? I want you to know what it feels like. Mac ports wasn't configurable or controllable, and as developers, we really needed to get in there and change how these things were built and installed. Install things in a weird place, which really meant using Mac ports was really hard, and often a transitive dependency, that's a dependency of a dependency, but we have words to describe that because software engineering is so unbelievably complex. And often the transitive dependencies would break, and they're the ones that are hard to fix because you don't have direct control over them. And it duplicated everything on your Mac, which meant that it took 6 hours to initially install anything with Mac ports, so that's half a day wasted at least. And it also meant, more seriously, that sometimes your app that you're building would use the wrong version of things. And like one particular example, we spent days debugging an issue where our app had managed to link to both versions, and then it would crash. Like C++ is a horrible thing. Anyway, my friends were like, okay Max, if Mac ports is so bad, like, to be clear, it isn't that bad. Like, we're software engineers, right? We want to control the dinosaurs in our Lego. So they said, if Mac ports is so bad, why don't you make your Max ports? So we all laughed, but I went home and I started writing code. Obviously the name did not stay Max ports. And why not? Well, names matter. Personally, like not just on a marketing level, personally, I find in my brain, if I have a good name for something, it really helps me to understand the product I'm trying to build. A good name describes what the thing is. So for example, here's two computer monitors. Which one, if you recommended both to your friends, do you think they would remember? It's the Ultrafine. And I also like the Ultrafine because the name describes some aspect of the product. It has a high density resolution display. Names that help you understand the product was kind of key to me because I was building a package manager and I really didn't want to build it by myself. Package managers have an awful lot of descriptive files in them, and I didn't know anything about most of the bits of software that it was going to install. I needed the rest of the internet to help me out. And here's another good example of two names, but one failed. This is the high definition disk war from, I don't know, 10 years ago, and Blu-ray one. And I like to think Blu-ray one because HD DVD is the most abominable name for a product that anyone has ever come up with. It's 5 syllables and it's meaningless. I wanted good names, but I also wanted a good theme. This is because the terminology of package managers is vast. And most package managers, A, they have a bad name, but also all the components inside them have really bad names. Often unnamed, in fact, and they use the words like file and directory, and files and directories are all over your computer. So if you open a ticket on GitHub with a bug, and someone said, the files are in the wrong place, you won't even know what they're talking about. Which files? For God's sake. And I wanted people to be able to easily describe their problems or easily contribute to Homebrew. And good names help you talk about things. So I wanted a theme, so it would run through with a metaphor and help people to understand the product I was building more quickly. Yeah, I shouldn't be on this slide yet, sorry. Oh my god. Well, you can look at that stuff. How far did we go? Okay, no, that's not an edge. Oh. Alright, never mind. Okay, so I like this quote. I couldn't build an encyclopedia by myself. Jimmy Wales, creator of Wikipedia. Now, I'm not trying to say Homebrew is as important as Wikipedia, but I couldn't build Homebrew by myself. So straight from the word go, I wanted it to be something where other people could really get involved easily. I wanted the onboarding jump to be minimal. I wanted them to have to jump through no hoops to get there. What I was meant to talk about before this is the theme. So I asked my friends for a theme. We're in the pub. They suggested beer. No surprise. I laughed, but later I started thinking about it. Beer has some great terminology, brewing especially. There's all sorts of words I could use. For instance, I made it so software installs into kegs. Other package managers have no word for where the software gets installed. So if you try and talk about it, you're just like using vague associations. Beer goes into kegs once you've brewed it, perfect. Kegs install into the cellar. I had a really neat system for Homebrew, which allowed it to install everything in a way which was very user-friendly, and so I had this extra directory. Other package managers often didn't. But kegs go in the cellar, great. So if someone opens a ticket and wants to talk about something, they can talk about the cellar if it's related to that. The library that controls Homebrew. BrewKit. Now, a lot of people might think it's not important to have a good name for the library, but again, if people open GitHub tickets and they start talking about Homebrew, if you've named your library Homebrew, are they talking about the product or are they talking about the library? I want things to be very clear. Files that describe the stuff to install. Formula, I do regret this one. I wish I picked recipe, incidentally. I was going too far with the theme. I was so excited about it. I was like, oh, I can come up with all these words. Yeah, formula is not good, especially because I pluralized it to formulae. Right? How pretentious is that? So now everyone on the internet calls them formulae and I hate it. And the command user types. Brew, short, sweet. Commands that the user type need to be short and sweet. And also kind of it describes what you're doing. You're brewing software, it's perfect. And of course, naturally, the name came out about Homebrew. I wanted people to know that this package manager was controllable, it was configurable, it was hackable. Home brewing is making beer on your own terms. You choose the beer, you choose the ingredients, you choose the kit, you choose the bottles. And you choose when you drink it. Everything is configurable, it's up to you. And I wanted people who saw something about homebrew to have that idea in their head already, an association, so they kind of knew what it was doing, what it would be about. I'm going to talk about the sudden, unexpected, explosive rise of homebrew. So, to set the scene, I quit Last.fm. I didn't quit Last.fm to make homebrew. I quit Last.fm to make Flappy Bird, Doodle Jump, one of these other $1 games or less that made the creator millions of dollars. It was 2009, and there was tons of these App Store success stories, and I was like, I made apps, I could do that. Doodle Jump's crap. Yeah, let's go ahead again. So, I was looking on the internet for information to help me build this product. Well, I had a lot of domain knowledge in the area, because I tried all these Linux distributions, I tried all these package managers, I worked on loads of open source for different build systems, etc. I was actually quite knowledgeable. And I found this question, and it was basically saying, hey Max, I need homebrew, can you tell me about homebrew? Paraphrased. It was asking how to compile our own software and map ports wasn't good enough, etc. So I wrote a very detailed response, took me hours, because somewhere in the back of my head I knew somehow that this was important. And after that, the software started getting forks. A fork on GitHub is where someone makes a copy. And usually nowadays, it means they're going to contribute back. But back then, GitHub didn't have another way to like mark a project, so people often fork it just to indicate that they wanted to come back and look at it again. So it didn't mean I was going to get a contribution, but it was exciting. I had a few forks. Also, this question got a bunch of upvotes, and it got this single comment. David Z, probably the first person ever to give some positive critique of homebrew. Thank you, David Z. One day, I woke up, and this was probably like 3 p.m. because at this point I was just staying up all night and sleeping all day and not interacting with the world. Didn't have a job, didn't have a girlfriend. All I had was homebrew, as it turned out. And I woke up and I looked at GitHub and there was loads of forks, like 30 or 40 forks. And this was before GitHub could show you why people were forking, so I had to do some Google foo to find a tweet. A tweet by Josh Peak. At the time, he worked at 37 Signals, which is the inventor of Ruby on Rails. So he was a bit of a tech celebrity, and he said next time in fresh installed OS X, which was going to come, OS 10, sorry, which is going to come out next month, he was going to install Homebrew. He linked to Homebrew. So I had all these forks, and it started getting contribution. And it was at that point, yes, here we go. This started happening. This is a video showing the growth of Homebrew. That single user is me. Every one of the nodes is a file. Each of the beams is a commit. All the stuff on the right is the stuff I needed to make my game. And that's it. And suddenly, after I wrote the super user for it, I got a user. And then when Josh wrote his tweet, this happened. And it never stopped. And it got bigger and bigger. Hack and Use featured Homebrew several times. Hack and Use is a software engineers news aggregator where people tend to write rather nasty things in the comments. But it got me a lot of traffic, and people kept like using it and using it. I think I just got married. This kind of graph, like video, other projects, no other project has ever been like this, or ever will be. And the reason is, I had this razor-sharp focus the whole time I was building it on making it trivial for other people to get involved, to contribute. I cut out all the hoops. Firstly, installation of Homebrew was trivial. All you had to do was clone the project and you could straight away start using it. Secondly, because you cloned the project, you already had the Git repo, so you didn't have to figure out how to get the Git repo and then apply your changes and test them. You already were testing your changes, ready to push them back. It's really easy to learn. I had a great theme, great name, and I spent a lot of time making it so it felt intuitive. The README read nicely, the user interface of the command line was sensible. It copied other similar package managers. I used so many, I knew all the interfaces, so I took the subset, which was the same, and applied it. And it was easy to know Homebrew's purpose and its value proposition. It had a nice name, great README. I made it intuitive, so you didn't even need to read the README. When you installed the product, it started to become clear straight away how to use it, how to contribute. I put this isn't the death of Homebrew. We split Homebrew out into two different new repositories then, October 2016. The brew command had a create function and an edit function, so anyone could get straight into writing their own formulae. And when you created a new formulae, took a URL, put it into the formula structure, loads of comments saying what else they needed to do, and then telling them how to push it back. When you edited, it just opened the file in the text editor of your choice. Like other open source software wasn't doing these sort of things, and it just led to this crazy adoption. It's more though, because good open source software that's going to be successful has to cultivate its community. And I didn't exactly actively cultivate the community, and in fact, I turned into a bit of an asshole, to be honest, while I was maintaining this project, because that much activity, and I had to like oversee it all. I was up hours every day. It was very stressful. I felt a huge responsibility towards this sudden trust that all these people were throwing at me, and it made me stressed, and I wasn't always nice. So I apologize to everyone I wasn't nice to on the internet. I am a nice person, ask my wife. So how did community cultivate? Well, it had easy onboarding. Getting into Homebrew was trivial. That's the first thing. Like the first contribution, you don't want to make anyone jump through a hoop. They don't want to do it. They want it to be easy, so you make it really trivial, and I did. But then once they contributed a few formula, maybe they'll stick around, because I answered GitHub tickets promptly within 3 or 4 hours. If I couldn't answer them within 3 or 4 hours, I apologized and said I would get to it when I could. I merged contributions promptly. Like people giving you their time, you have to respect that. So I really quickly put things in, so then they feel like doing it again. I had a number of really important contributors over the years, and I'm only going to mention 2, so apologies to everybody else. Adam Vanderberg, I believe that's how you pronounce your name, sorry Adam, I've only ever read it. He was the first other person to contribute to the project, and we didn't talk for months. He had a fork, he found formula and put them in there, and I merged them into mine, and then he noticed and reset it. Like the first time we talked was like in a bug ticket somewhere. We had this silent collaboration. So I never said hi. So Adam, if you're watching this, hi. And Michael Quaid, who was a friend I had from working in Linux, and he noticed Homebrew off one of the Hacker News articles one day, and he emailed me asking if he could contribute. I was like, yeah, like everybody else, just contribute. But he kind of wanted to be more involved, and he became very involved, and he was very important. And when I eventually stepped down from running Homebrew, he stepped in. I also wrote loads of documentation. That's important. Like, if you don't have the answers to people's questions, they might just go away. And I encourage people who did contribute to contribute more. Little gentle encouragement. Homebrew was an overnight success. I worked about 4 months on it, and suddenly it was enormously popular, and everyone was using it and talking about it. But it wasn't finished at all. Like, I was not ready for people to be using this product. It was like alpha quality. It didn't have a number of very important features. So over the next couple of years, we fleshed it out. Dependency resolution wasn't even in there to start with. It's something that you think a package manager must do. Install the dependencies. That's half of what I talked about in this presentation. Didn't even do it. It didn't handle versioning properly. But we made it all work. And I worked like 18, 24 hours a day. And I'd sleep, and then I sleep 12 hours, and I'd wake up. And I realized the work I'd done the previous day wasn't good enough, and I'd throw it away, or change it, refine it. And that's important. I don't think Homebrew would be successful still if I hadn't had a razor-sharp focus on making sure it was great. You have to be willing to throw away your code. A lot of people are not. They're like, I spent hours on that, I'm not getting rid of it. It stays there forever. But you have to have great features. So I said no a lot to other people too who had feature requests for Homebrew. I wanted it to, I followed the mantra of something should be as simple as possible but no simpler. So if it is any simpler than that line, then the product is worse. And if it is any more complex, then the product is worse. It's the perfect position. And every feature you add is complexity. So it's a trade-off. You have to figure out if the feature is worth it for your product or not. Is a little extra complexity worth it? And what I do is I'd say no, I keep it on the back burner, and then I realise that that feature was some of the other features, and I combine the two, then I'd have something that worked better than the individual contributions. I think a lot of open source, especially open source nowadays, they just say yes to everything, because they're trying to cultivate that community. They're trying to make people passionate. And if you say yes to everything, you end up with awful things. The axiom used to be that all software evolves to the point where it can read emails. The axiom is probably nowadays all software evolves to the point where it can post to Facebook or something, but this is the point. Software has a tendency to get more and more features. And I don't forget that software engineers, their only cost is time. They can go home in the evening and add email to their Notepad application if they really want to. And that's a pretty good example because Emacs is bad, of course. Importantly, I wasn't vying for the favour of my users. I already had them, but I felt an intense responsibility to keep their favour. They trusted me, and I didn't want to let them down. Why Homebrew was popular? Well, super easy contribution was the key catalyst. Absolutely, and I've already talked about that at length. Super easy installation. So originally you just cloned it, so that's a simple tool that we use, and it's just a very simple process. We do it all every day. Eventually we realized it would be better if it was installed somewhere else, so we made an install script. And my install script is somewhat famous because people think that it's a terrible thing, because it's insecure. I made it so you could copy and paste a line of code from the internet, paste it into your terminal, you downloaded the script and executed it with root privileges, and I'm basically saying that that's okay, that you should just randomly download things from the internet and execute them on your computer. So people think I did a bad thing, but I think it was important because it capitalized the success of Homebrew. If I hadn't done it, Homebrew would not necessarily have been so popular in the long run, because installing to that other place was important. It meant that all your other software would find the things Homebrew did. Remember, MacPorts was a pain because it put things in a weird place. I wanted to put things in the right place, and the default wouldn't do that, so I needed to make this script helpful when it goes wrong. This is something very few bits of software do. When it goes wrong, it doesn't tell you anything. It says error. That's it. You're like, okay, now what? I spent ludicrous amounts of time writing diagnostics so that when something went wrong with Homebrew, it would give you an idea about what to do about it. Because remember, I didn't have that much time, and I didn't want to help everyone fix Homebrew. Homebrew should just work, but also, when it does fail, because everything inevitably fails, I wanted people to be empowered to fix the problem themselves. So I wrote all these diagnostics saying, hey, try this, try this, try this. And then I made it search Google for you for that error message. And then I made it search GitHub for tickets in case someone had already opened a bug about that ticket and we were working on it. So that at least then they wouldn't open a new ticket, we already searched for them. Because users don't want to do the work, let's just face it, so I did it for them. I built it and maintained it with a it must work, it just works attitude. Part of that, I think, was because I resisted complexity. Complexity leads to bugs. There's an axiom that every 10 lines of code has a bug in it, and it's probably true. We write thousands of lines of code, so obviously the less code, the better. But complexity, that's where all the bugs happen. So by keeping it simpler, I used the file system as the database. I copied this idea from Go or Linux. By not having a database, I eliminated an enormous category of potential bugs. And the file system is a tried and tested system. It's been working properly and efficiently without issues for 30 years. By using Git as the update mechanism, I avoided having to write an update system, which would have been another huge number of category of bugs. But obviously, I also applied the simplicity to my code, and I wrote it defensively, and I handled all the errors, which very few software engineers do. And again, when the errors did happen, I tried to help users fix them themselves. Designed to circumnavigate the worst pain points of the competition, I'd used hundreds of package managers. I knew how each and every one of them sucked, so I didn't make mine suck. And it's hackable. Like I said, the very first thing I wanted to do was make it configurable, controllable, so I could do the things I needed to do with it to build my software. Now, a lot of people don't really use the hackableness of it anymore. It's just a useful tool. But this appeals to power users, and those power users are evangelists. They have 20, 30,000 followers on Twitter, and they tell people, hey, Homebrew's pretty good, I like it. And then you get all this extra use from people following on with that. So the top bullets are all accessibility, making it more friendly, user experience is good, user interface is good. Bottom one, that's a power user thing, but you need both for a successful project. So, as I said, I never wanted to do all of Homebrew. Like, I was trying to make Flappy Bird, let's remember. So I designed it from start so that everyone else could help me out. And then I got caught up with it, and it was really fun and exciting for a long time. And then I finished all the major features that I felt were important. And I felt it was important that I do that, because I was the one who'd been thinking about this product for like 2 years. Everyone else probably hadn't. So I felt I had the best position to implement these features right in the way that Homebrew is meant to be. But I cultivated this enormous community of people, and I had all these core developers that were more passionate about Homebrew than I was anymore. So one day they asked me to transfer the repository. So Homebrew was on my GitHub username, which tickled my ego a little, I have to say, because it was at this point the biggest project on GitHub, and people would see my name on that chart. But true open source needs to move to an organization. An organization doesn't have an owner. It's open source as it's meant to be, decentralized and owned by the community. They asked me to do this because they know it's time. And it was Christmas. I was at an office Christmas party for the place I worked for in Chicago. And I had this open on my laptop, and I turned to my manager at the time and I said, I can't click this button. And he said quite wisely, well, shit, Max, don't do it. And well, maybe he was right. Like, he got me that job, for example. I went for an interview and they said, you wrote Homebrew, you got the job. It was that simple. And like, it's got me a lot of stuff over the years. And like, I was saying I was giving it up. And it was hard. It was mostly hard because I was really proud of what I'd made. And it was a big deal, what I'd produced. So I went to the corner of the room and I pushed the button. As a summary, how do you make successful open source? best person to answer that. I only made one really successful product, but this is what I think. Build your open source like it's a real product. A lot of people just throw their open source on the internet and leave it. Maybe they get featured in a weekly mailing list, and they think that it's just going to magically become like successful. Like they use it, it's great. Surely it's just going to work. You have to think about marketing, evangelizing a product. You have to think about the user experience of it. Even a library, something that developers use. Often the APIs, application programming interfaces of libraries are terrible, they're awful, seriously bad. It needs to be good. It needs to encourage people to like it, so that they then share and work on and talk about your product. Community is vital to your success. There's so many open source projects on GitHub, get featured on a weekly mailing list, and then they're never talked about. They're never maintained. The user doesn't answer any of the tickets. Like, people are trying to talk to you, talk back to them, communicate with them. Know when your catalysis is done. I was Homebrew's catalyst. I formed it, I influenced it, I directed it, but I needed to step down in the end. And knowing when that moment is, it's important. I probably left it too late. Anyway, that's my talk. Thanks very much. I was a bit too far with rejection sometimes, to be honest. Like, I had a real thing for names, obviously, and so if people would submit something and I thought the name was wrong, I'd be like, no. And like, sometimes I was just over the top. And sometimes I picked the wrong names, so I eventually realised that I should be a bit more humble with this. And yeah, we rejected a lot of like hobby projects. Like, we didn't want something that someone had made like over the weekend being in the repository. But I kind of wish we hadn't been like that, to be honest, because it didn't hurt anything really. We were like being purists. Still, you've got to draw the line somewhere, I guess, and so like a 2-day hobby project that doesn't do anything, it doesn't have, I guess like some aspect of renown was most of the time the criteria. But no, we wouldn't reject things for other reasons. No, we didn't have any moral issues with anything that ended up in there or anything like that.
Are you actively contributing to any projects now, or intend to contribute to any open source projects in the near future?
I have another project that I started a few years ago called PromiseKit. It's a promises library for iPhone. I applied all the same principles to that I did Homebrew, and it's pretty successful. It's a top 100 library for iPhone development. Netflix uses it, Airbnb uses it, McDonald's uses it, for example. Like, you think Netflix would give me a free subscription or something, right? No. So yeah, that's my main one, but it's not nearly the same size, for sure. And like, over the years, I've open sourced tons of stuff. Like, usually, every year, I have something. I put it out there, and that's the thing, you put it out there to see if anyone else agrees. Is this a good idea or not? And like, if I don't really get any interest after a while, even if I push it on Twitter or something else, then I consider it to not be good, and then stop using it myself, and then I delete it. But yeah, usually 1 or 2 things every couple of years.
So do you have any advice for new developers or junior developers who are looking to contribute to open source projects? Like, it can be really intimidating. Yeah,
well, I know. Like, because that's why I spent so long making Homebrew not intimidating for people to approach. I tried to contribute to other open source projects in the past, and I didn't even feel like contributing to backports. It's intimidating. So you've got to find a good project which has a good attitude, and I advise also getting in there early. It makes it a lot easier when you see like the initial project. Usually it's smaller, it's simpler. You can understand the code more quickly. But I think my biggest advice would be to start something. everyone can identify a need, and that's how most open source starts. You have a need. I needed that disk usage thing. I needed Homebrew. Like, it's usually a tool that you need in order to do something else. I was trying to make Flappy Bird, but I made Homebrew instead. Do I regret that? So identify the things you need and make them. Put them out there. Talk about it with people on the internet. Be active with your community, and it will be a successful open source project, provided it's good.
Congratulations, Max, for identifying a problem, articulating a vision for its solution, and planting a flag in cyberspace where people can rally around it. The challenge in software development is adhering to standards. So you put together a structure for naming conventions. Was there a naming convention for variable names?
Yeah.
How you called the procedures, that sort of thing?
I tried not to go too far.
Inline documentation for commenting code.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of fun with the briefing, for sure. And it was hard not to go into the code and name everything with dear names. But ultimately, I believe naming is important because it communicates information. So I didn't go too far with the theme. Like, for example, I could have described the installation process as fermenting, and I considered it for a while. But the key point was that I was only trying to invent names for things that didn't have an existing name. I didn't want to make it more confusing by taking names that people understood and giving them an interesting, silly bit of pre-written terminology. And I've seen since people do that with, they've taken the Homebrew theming idea and gone crazy with it on their projects, and it gets silly. You don't want to go too far. The idea is to make it more intuitive, not less intuitive. So yeah, there was some stuff in the code though, but that was for us, that was for us core developers, so we more or less were okay with it. I think it's
Another question is about the ancillary documentation surrounding it. What kind of control did you have on that? For example, written documentation, procedures, videos as to how to use it?
we had a lot of documentation. As I was saying before, I tried to make it so you didn't need the documentation of Homebrew, that it was just like intuitive, you understood how it worked by using it. But there's inevitably questions, and I wanted everyone to have the answers, and so I'd always go into the documentation after closing tickets that didn't have answers in the documentation and increase the documentation. We didn't have videos. Nowadays we probably would if we were starting fresh. But yeah, mostly just stuff in the source code, available on GitHub.
One last question, and that is, do you think that applications that have more broad use, for example, Linux, creating tools, more better suited for open source than, let's say, singleton apps?
Rather than what, sorry?
Than singleton apps, for example.
I don't really understand. Sorry.
Do applications that have a broader application, let's say an operating system, are those better suited for open source collaboration versus singleton?
Well, all open source needs to have a well-defined and preferably small boundary, and that is the case. Like, we call it Linux, but actually it's an enormous combination of thousands of different open source projects, and Linux is just this tiny bit at the top. So open source is better if it's well-defined. Then people come to your project. Again, like most people using open source or developing open source, they don't want to spend time on your thing. They want to use your thing to make the thing they're making. So there's more well-defined boundary, the better, in my opinion.
So what happened to your Flappy Bird that you started off?
Well, that's an old old idea. Maybe we'll resurrect it one day. I was actually working on it with my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. So maybe we will. But there were some other people involved, and they didn't like us anymore. So. But I am working on a different game this year, actually. I'm trying to work on a game. It's good. It's better than that.
I believe you said that you taught yourself coding. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, where would you recommend somebody to teach themselves
Well, probably something like Code Combat online is one of my favorite ways to learn code right now. It's kind of like playing a video game, but you won't code, but it gives you that extra sort of motivation. Then you have things like the upper level up and stuff, and you learn the code as you go, and there's 4 languages in it. It's pretty good.